Hello everyone, this is Jonathan Little, and in this video I will be teaching you the fundamentals of no-limit Texas Hold'em. But really, you're going to be getting two videos in one. While I'm teaching you guys, I'll also be playing 4 online multi-table tournament sit-and-goes at the same time. When the action heats up in the games, I'll tell you what I'm thinking in these real poker situations. I also suggest that you watch this video multiple times so that you make sure that you absorb all the information. This should be fun. Let's get started. What I have loaded up here are multi-table sit-and-goes. These will be 180-person sit-and-goes, and they'll be of the turbo variety. And the reason I'm doing turbos is so that we can get a lot more information out of these videos. If I did the non-turbo games, I wouldn't be able to get near as many situations. So in the bottom left-hand table, we have an $11 turbo sit-and-go with 180 people. In the bottom right-hand game, we have a $2 turbo sit-and-go with 180 people. And also, notice I have a $3 rebuy turbo sit-and-go loading up. And then I have a $7 one loading up as well. And as you can see on PokerStars, these you can play 45-person sit-and-goes, 90-person sit-and-goes, 18-person sit-and-goes. You can pretty much play whatever you want. And I want to go ahead and talk about the rebuy tournaments just a little bit. Basically, you always want to rebuy if you have less than the starting stack. And in general, you should basically always rebuy, assuming you think you're one of the better players at the table. Right here with King 10 offsuit, this is a spot where I see a lot of players make a mistake by either calling or raising here. Really, King 10, hands like King 10, Ace 3, they're just very marginal, and really they're not very good to play. You can simply avoid them. As you can see, the $7 game isn't really loading up, so I'm going to load up another $11 table. Basically, what you need to do in these sit-and-goes is play pretty tight and aggressive in the early stages of the game. And then as the blinds get higher, you'll have to start going all in a lot more. Right here with 7-8 suited, this is a great hand to see a cheap flop with. And notice we got in for 20 chips. And even if it was a raise to 60 and there was a call, I would still definitely call along. Because hands like 7-8 suited, 5-6 suited, 10-9 suited, whatever, those are called suited connectors, and they flop very well. When I say they flop very well, I mean they flop good draws a lot of the time. And right here, this really isn't a good draw. Notice we have, it's called a gut shot, where we have 4 cards to make the nut straight, but it's not really worth calling here to try to get to it. I guess I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself. I started playing poker when I was 18 years old. I'm 24 now. I started off with $50 playing 25-cent, 50-cent limit, which was the smallest stakes available online at that time, 6 years ago. And I moved over to sit-and-goes whenever I turned about 20, and I grinded sit-and-goes for a year or two. I played the biggest games available online at the time and did pretty well at them. When I turned 21, I started playing multi-table tournaments in the live casinos, and I didn't really do well my first year. I realized later that I was playing a bit too tight. But once I realized that, I played a little bit more loose and had really good results. I've ended up winning about $4 million in the live poker tournaments and about $500,000 online in poker tournaments. I've taken second in the Sunday Million on PokerStars, which is basically the biggest tournament run every week. I think I got like $120,000 for that, and I took 4th in a full tilt Sunday tournament, their big Sunday tournament once. I think I got like $80,000 for that. So I've done pretty well online. And those tournaments, they're very similar structured to these turbo sit-and-goes, because you really just don't have a whole lot of play. Play is what's referred to as whenever you have a lot of big blinds compared to the blinds. Like right here, notice we have 3,000 chips, and the blinds are only 10-20, so we have 150 big blinds, which is a pretty decent stack. And that's how most online tournaments start out, but very quickly you'll notice that we're going to get down to about 10 big blinds. The blinds are going to escalate very quickly, and before we know it, we're going to be in bad shape. Alright, notice this is the rebuy tournament here, and because of that, I'm going to actually call here, but if this was a regular tournament, I think you just need to fold. In the beginning of these rebuy tournaments, people tend to spew their chips around quite liberally, and we can expect to get it in good here a decent amount of time, or coin flipping, and right here we were coin flipping. And that's fine. You can't really turn down coin flips in rebuy tournaments. And we lost the hand, but, you know, whenever you have overcards against a small pair, you have about 50% equity. Equity is referred to how much of the pot you actually own. You're going to notice in the top right-hand table, I'm going to be calling all in quite a bit more loosely in the early levels, just because it's a rebuy tournament. Alright, now notice how I was down to 10 chips. I could have rebought right there up to 1,500 10 chips, but if I lose this 10 chips, I can then rebuy twice and get back up to 3,000 chips. I just want to point out that this guy probably didn't make a bad play with his eights. Again, he realized this is a rebuy tournament. He'd already rebought, so he's probably a competent player. And, you know, it wasn't a bad play. And in spots like that, you know, my call was okay, his push was okay. Neither of us made a bad play. However, one of us is going to lose that hand, and unfortunately it was me, but in spots like that where you really can't do anything about the result, you just don't worry about it. A lot of players get stuck on, when they get unlucky, they go on what's called tilt, which is where you kind of lose all control of everything, and you just end up throwing away your money. And that's the absolute last thing you want to do in poker, is throw away your money. You need to make sure you're getting your money in good, where you have lots of equity, and you'll end up profiting in the long run. These tournaments like this actually have very high variance, and variance is when you know, most of the time on any individual tournament you're going to lose money on average, but occasionally you're going to win a lot of money. Right here with the Queen 6, notice our opponent bet 160 into a 100 chip pot, and right here we're drawing to the very lowest end of the straight. If a 5 comes or a 10 comes, we'll have a straight, but it'll be a bad straight. So in this spot right there, it's a very easy fold. You're not really getting great pot odds. Pot odds are when you compare the amount of money in the pot to your percentage that you're going to win. So you can figure out how many outs you have. An out is where you have, like right there we had 8 outs. We had 4 5s and 4 10s. So we had about 1/5 of the deck. So we need to be getting about 5 to 1 to call. And right there we were getting like 1.5 to 1 or something, which isn't very good. Right here with 10s, I'm definitely going to re-raise. Notice in these turbo multi-table sit and goes, you can't really be scared to go broke with any pretty good hand. And if we do go broke, that's fine. We'll just load up another table. And when you're playing these games, you want to make sure you have a pretty big bankroll compared to the buy-in. In general, you want to have something like 100 buy-ins. So if you're playing $10 games, you need about $1,000, which sounds like a lot, but notice if we look at the lobby, the tournament lobby here, they have games all the way down to 10 cents, or they actually have 1 cent games. All right, here we flopped a set, which is 3 of a kind, where I have 2 of them in my hand. Notice my opponent only has 1,000 chips behind him. Because of that, I want to bet small so that he'll think that he might can take me off of my hand if he goes all in. You always want to make sure your opponent thinks they can bluff you. And that's something that a lot of amateur players don't do. Like, they would just go all in here because they think they have a very good hand. But really, you want to give your opponent a chance to bluff. And he got really unlucky that he had a set as well. That's about one of the best spots you can get in poker because he only has 1 out. He has to hit exactly a 9 to win. He actually had the backdoor flush draw too, which might have came in. Let's go back to this hand. Notice PokerStars has this neat little replay where you can replay what happened throughout a hand. I'm going to talk about how much, whenever you're raising pre-flop, you need to raise to about 3 times the big blind, which is what this opponent did, which is pretty good. Whenever it gets back to me, I'm usually going to need to make it about, if there was only 1 raiser, I would want to make it about 3 times what he made it. But for each caller, I'm going to need to make it an extra size of his raise. So I normally make it about 180 chips. But since there are 2 callers, I need to make it 180 plus 60 plus 60, so about 300 chips. So that's actually exactly what I did. You can go a little bit more, a little less, but in general, the formula you need to use is to make it 3 times what the raiser made it, plus an extra raise size for each additional caller.